You have found the In the Verse podcast. Songwriting inspired by pop culture media. With your hosts, Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason.
Welcome to In the Verse, the podcast that makes music inspired by popular media. I am Marc Gunn, the creator of Firefly Drinking Songs, the show, and host of the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast.
And I'm Mikey Mason, creator of the Beer-Powered Time Machine, and currently the on-again, off-again MIKEYtalks podcast, mostly off again right now.
This is episode 8 of our new 10-episode season of the In the Verse podcast.
And, you know, since we ran out of episodes of Firefly, if you've listened to the show, you know this. We ran out of episodes of Firefly to write and discuss. Then we're going to be finding inspiration in episodes of other media, TV shows, comic books, cartoons, but absolutely under no circumstances not heavy sigh video games, Mark.
As always, you can support us in this and other creative endeavors by supporting Mikey Mason at patreon.com/Mikey Mason.
And by supporting Mark at patreon.com/Celtfather, or Celtfather if you're in Boston.
or in Spain, Spain.
Okay.
Excuse me. Should have cut that out. Upcoming shows and news. I am performing that's not entirely true. I'm performing on Coffee the Celt Father on Wednesdays at 11:30 a.m. I say not entirely true because I'm doing things a little bit different. I'll tell you about it when I get to the news section. But most Wednesdays, 11:30 a.m., look for me on Patreon. February 10th, The Lost Druid Brewery. February 15th, I'm doing a Hobbit Drinking Songs show on Bandcamp. February 17th, Goblin Market, Frost Fair. February 24th, Maggie McGinnis Pub. March 9th, Sonoya Beer Company. Then I got Sherwood Forest Fair at the end of March, Jordan Con in April, and Celtic Invasion of the Isle of Man in June.
Wow. You seem so much more productive than me.
I am trying to book stuff up.
I have lots of stuff going on, but anyway, I have monthly online shows, so pay attention to my social media and my Patreon for announcements about my monthly online shows. There's a free online show every month, tips accepted. It runs about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then new music every Monday on Patreon for my Patreon patrons. And then February is coming, so I'll be doing February album writing month. And I also perform out as a solo act in bands, and there are conventions coming up, and I don't have a list because Mark is far more on the ball than I am.
I spent the morning doing booking stuff. I've been actually not that on the ball, which is why I'm like, I really got to get back to booking. I'm actually trying to reach out to some booking agents thinking, well, St. Patrick's Day's coming up. I should be making bank for that,
You should be.
So, but yeah, unfortunately, trying to book stuff is never easy, and so yeah, I reach out to places and don't hear back,
and it's always something you should have started last year.
And it's always something. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
News. So right now I have a Kickstarter. It goes until I think February 2nd. I think it is. Doing a Make 100 Kickstarter. It's for the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, though I am debating adding some little bit more personal stuff to that Kickstarter. Right now it's all fully funded, but I'm trying to raise funds to for a stretch goal, which is going very slow. But that's the way I fund a lot of my merch these days, and so if you enjoy what I do, go check that out. I'm also revamping the way I'm doing podcasts in general. So the Celt Father podcast that I have is turning into Celtic Invasion Vacations, the podcast, basically. So what I'm doing differently is I went through the almost 300 episodes of that podcast, and I deleted most of it, and now it's down to 70 thus far. It's going to get cut down even more, and I'm just picking the stuff that was actually part of my Celtic Invasions vacations, so that's going to be very specifically focused on that. And I'm hoping to add new episodes that'll be promote the Celtic Invasion vacations. That'll be more specific like items lists and things and what's not. I was listening to one that I did, which was like the best and worst of the Isle of Skye, and I was like, oh, I like how I did that. More like that would be better. So
Yeah.
and then I'm also doing the way I'm doing pub songs and stories. So instead of doing a weekly podcast, which I have the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, so I don't need another weekly podcast. I'm going to starting to batch record episodes, and I'm going to release them over a period of time and then take a break. And then I'll batch record some more, release those over time, and then take a break.
Do it in seasons, so to speak.
Exactly, because I don't have the time to put together a whole bunch of different podcasts and such. I want to do it, little by little. You want to
do it smarter. You want to work smarter, not harder.
Well, you have to do it with a Scottish accent like Scrooge McDuck.
Work smarter, not harder.
Excellent. So it's definitely a change, and I'm liking it so far.
Cool. Well, I've got the Mason Vaughn project. It's Ryan Vaughn and myself. We were in a band called the Meanies. The Meanies have since disbanded. And Ryan and I are doing a musical duo. It's two guys who make good music and have a lot of fun on stage, and that's pretty much it. Those are the requirements. We have fun, and we try and make that translate to an audience, and we're pretty good at it. And we do some covers that other people just don't do. We do a guitar duo version of A Day in the Life that was originally put together by the Meanies. But yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Some of the stuff we do is absolutely fun. I do, of course, Lizzo's Truth Hurts, and if you've never seen a middle-aged white man sing Truth Hurts on an acoustic guitar, you're missing out.
I want to see it.
We cover the Gourds Gin and Juice. The Gourds is a Texas bluegrass band who covered Snoop Dogg's Gin and Juice, and so we do that as well. We do lots of mashups, and we just have fun. We have fun, and it's awesome. So that's getting booked. I perform out probably once or twice a month as the Mason Vaughn Project right now.
Very cool.
I could give you dates, but I'm not gonna, because you got to be in Muncie to come see us in general right now.
Right.
But I also perform out. I'll be at various conventions. I'll be at Gen Con. I'll be at Dragon Con.
Yeah.
There are some other conventions that I'll be at, and I need to get on the ball and update my website. But there you go. Mason Vaughn Project. I wish we had some more online stuff, but we don't. And since most of what we do are cover songs, there probably won't be a ton of online stuff. But we've got some great images and media, some pictures of us as minifigs from Dungeons and Dragons, or as Funko Pop figures, and I only say that because I'm the one who did all of that art. So
very cool.
But let's talk about, because we're doing The Witcher, right? We're doing Witcher season 1, episode 4.
Yep.
Of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials.
Yeah.
So the thing about the Witcher series, especially in season 1, but also in season 2, is that there are several potentially confusing time jumps that have to be tracked by the viewer, right?
That's so true.
And you almost don't notice them because they'll put a location and a year, right?
Yeah, right.
And if you're not paying attention, you just assume they're in chronological order, but they are absolutely not. So to understand the full scope of the time jumps and the impact that they have on the story, it is almost necessary to have watched the entire season. But in spite of that, we're going to have to do our best. So the synopsis we're about to give is heavily pulled from Wikipedia. It's slightly modified, but it absolutely doesn't cover everything that happened in the episode, and certainly not in the same order in which it happens in the episode.
Very true. All right. In the year 1240, having served the kingdom of Aedirn for 30 years, Yennefer, along with Queen Callis of Lyria, is ambushed by an assassin. In the ensuing chase, Yennefer flees, unable to save Callis and her newborn daughter from the assassin.
Then, in 1249, Geralt accompanies Jaskier, I'm not sure whether, to the betrothal feast of Princess Pavetta, Queen Calanthe of Sintra's daughter. Urchin of Erlenwald, also named Dooney, not confusing at all, don't worry about that, interrupts to demand Pavetta's hand in marriage through the law of surprise, having saved her father's life several years earlier.
The law of surprise is an ancient law inspired by European folklore requiring that someone who is saved by someone else should offer them a boon, the nature of which is often unknown to both parties. For instance, the savior might ask for the first thing that comes to greet you when you return home, or what do you find at home yet don't expect?
Urchin suffers from a curse that transformed him into a kind of a humanoid hedgehog creature thing. And despite Pavetta's acceptance of the betrothal, Calanthe refuses and a brawl ensues. When Calanthe tries killing Urchin, Pavetta activates her power, an unknown power, unleashing a maelstrom until Geralt and Mousesack, the druid mage who serves Calanthe, intervene. I love these names, Mousesack.
Wanting her daughter happy, Calanthe marries Duny and Pavetta, which lifts his curse. Duny, thankful for Geralt's aid, insists he take a reward. Geralt jokingly invokes the law of surprise for something Duny has but does not yet know. The crowd then immediately learns Pavetta is pregnant with Duny's child. They'd been in love for some time.
Yeah. And then in 1263, Nilfgaard's forces resume their pursuit of Cirilla, a.k.a. Ciri, Pavetta's daughter, with Mousesack as their prisoner. Meanwhile, Cirilla and Dara encounter the Dryad Queen Ethne in Broccolon Forest, while Cahir and Fringilla track Ciri's location. A whole lot of meaningless names.
Right.
And my phone thinks that I'm talking to it because I said AKA Siri.
Right. Stop saying that.
But that is not
Stop
right.
saying Siri.
Right. Hey, Alexa, buy all Mikey's albums. Oh, God, I hope you're not listening to this out loud.
Awesome.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So, certainly does not cover everything that happened in the episode, and absolutely not in the same order in which it happened in the episode.
I like how you did that. That's nice. Seeing that in a functional order, except, except the bizarre order in which it comes in seems appropriate for this episode. I mean, it's I haven't actually picked out. Okay, so I haven't actually picked out exactly what the quote unquote theme is, but as we were talking before the show, it has this certainly this feminine quality. This I don't know how to describe it.
A feminist quality, certainly. I mean, there are undertones.
Yes, definitely.
Just in full disclosure, I reached out to Madison Matricula Roberts, a good friend of mine and a great songwriter, and told her that there is a song about this episode that needs to be written by a woman, because for a man to write it would ring hollow. And she has been working on a song. She's not available to record today. Mostly because we asked at the very last minute. Right. And that is quite literally, I'm like, hey, are you available right now? And she might be asleep right now. Because Mark and I get up early. We're olds. And
with kids.
With kids, yes. So, but there is absolutely a song in here that needs to be written by a woman, and it's not the song that I'm going to write or that Mark's going to write.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think that's going to happen. But yes. So this was, I got to say, first off, that I loved watching this episode with the intent on writing a song. I watched the episode like 3 or 4 times in preparation for this, and, took tons of notes, and didn't come up with a whole bunch of things that were like, oh, interesting, except what we were talking about with this feminist moment. But it was fascinating watching it from that perspective, because it is such a cohesive episode. I feel like bringing, it says banquets, bastards, and burials, but bringing it all around this feminist idea. It was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, and there are themes that transcend gender. I mean, while
yes,
it is
definitely
very woman focused, it reminds me of America Ferrera's monologue about how impossible it is to be a woman in Barbie. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
No, I've seen the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's
Oh,
literally
wait.
impossible to be a woman.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she talks about all of the things, all of the tightropes you have to walk to be a
Right.
woman. And, you know, you have to be thin, but not too thin. You can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but you also have to be thin, and you have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. And you have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. And there's all the, I mean, I'm like literally reading it. And so when you look at Calanthe and she's talking about, and she mentions to her daughter things about, you know, I didn't want to marry your father, and these are the things you have to do. And, you know, her daughter looks at her as kind of a monster because she was out teaching the peasants who's still in charge, because she put down a peasant revolt
Right.
and by violence, because she has to be twice as good as any male ruler to get half the credit. And that's, you know, that's from Madison. That's not me, but I see it. But I see four distinct themes that aren't tied directly necessarily to the feminist undertones in this episode. Helplessness, right?
Yeah.
Yennefer feels helpless at times. The queen she's escorting feels helpless. She's trapped in her position. Queen Callus of Lyria. The baby is obviously helpless. Queen Calanthe feels helpless after she tries to stop the marriage of her daughter to Dooney. She feels helpless, and she's got to pick one of these mindless twits to marry her daughter, and she's trapped by male tradition.
Yeah.
There's so much helplessness, you know, in this. Jaskier feels helpless. He needs Geralt to come protect him because he's, you know, been in the cookie jar, metaphorically, of every single noble there. He's slept with all of their he slept with their wives and their mistresses and their daughters and probably some of them, and because you know that's who that character is. But helplessness, it's like this. It's there are moments in there where you see, like, I don't have any other choice. Everybody in here, you know, at some point says I don't have it, and sometimes it's because of their honor or their duty.
Right.
Like, and that's the second theme is duty. I mean, there is a duty to uphold the law of surprise, and there is a duty of Geralt to protect the person he thinks is honorable, which is why he draws his sword and goes out to protect Urchin. And then Mouse Sack does the same thing.
I also love the fact that Geralt, who says who, you know, he's mentioned that I don't have any choice, and he's like, I do have a choice, and then of course it turns out he doesn't.
Right. I think he literally says you always have a choice or something like that. There's always a choice. But then it turns out, and he does have a choice, but in his heart, he feels like he doesn't. This is the right thing. This is what I have to do.
Right.
So I'm seeing helplessness, and I'm seeing duty, and of course there's destiny, the law of surprise,
right.
and Calanthe literally says something about, are you going to be trapped by destiny, or are you going to make your own? And I don't have the quote in front of me because I'm a really bad person. But and she says that during the thing, right? And of course, there's a theme about monsters. What constitutes a monster?
Right.
Calanthe's daughter Pavetta thinks Calanthe's a monster. Everybody there thinks Urchin's a monster. At the beginning of the episode, there's the discussion of that monster we didn't even talk about in the preview, because the episode opens with Jaskier listening to a story about Geralt defeating a monster. And they're like, he got eaten, he's dead. And he said, no, he's not. No, he's not. And then Geralt comes, having fought his way out from the monster's innards covered in guts. And so, you know, and then there are all these, how many tails does a manticore have? Obviously it's 2. Obviously it's 5. And then Geralt's like, neither of you have ever seen a manticore. But then Geralt, trapped by duty and feeling helpless in the situation because of his duty, says, maybe you saw some mutant breeds of manticore that I haven't seen.
Right.
You know, being very diplomatic.
Right.
So these are all themes that I felt all the way throughout.
Yeah.
What are you feeling about any of these? Helplessness, duty, destiny, any of those monsters?
I love all those. I love the, obviously the law of surprise, I think, stands out, really well. But, and the thing that, and I still haven't quite put my finger on it, what I want to write about, particularly with regard to, the feminine aspect of the thing. Cause I feel like there's such a story there, of that I feel like part of me wants to write something on as well. Again, I don't think I can do it justice, but doesn't mean I might not try anyways. But I
think
like
you just have to acknowledge that it's from a male perspective.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, whatever, if we write about that, we have to acknowledge in the writing that it's from a male perspective.
Right. But I love the, a lot of things you're talking about. The monsters was particularly touching on me as well. I had something in here. Is that must. I love that. I bow to no law made by men who never bore a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a bunch of little aspects, of their looking at their legacy. That would be my greatest mage to ever. The line from
Yennefer,
thank you, who's talking about my legacy as she's burying the child, the baby. She wanted to be the greatest mage ever. Actually, that was when she was in the car when she was riding with the princess.
Yeah,
and she's talking to her and said, "My legacy was to be the greatest mage ever." And now she finds herself, as a babysitter, which is
and cleaning up the messes of nobles.
But actually, that's one right there. There's also the idea of babysitting, because here she's babysitting a queen. Geralt is babysitting the bard, and going through some of those. There's a lot of moments that strike me like that. I also, as a fun little side, I also like the intro too, when intro for Geralt and Jaskier, who, as they're sitting in the pub, and some guy's talking about the Selkie Moor who has eaten the Witcher, and which I think that could be a fun one to touch on, and of course Jaskier is like, well, yeah, no, he's still alive, he's still fine. I saw him eaten. No, he's fine, and then the door opens up.
See. Yeah.
But he also makes that comment of it is, what was the comment that Jaskier makes? Is like, oh, I love this. This is Geralt rarely actually goes into details,
right? Yeah.
Which is a super fun. I think the thing that was the least moving for me was the whole moments with Ciri, in the forest, in the Brokilon forest. I don't know if there's much there, unless it is tied in with all these other aspects of, again, monsters and helplessness and not having a choice.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that even while you were talking, I was thinking about another theme throughout is appearances. We've talked about monsters, and in Brokilon Forest, the kid talks about Queen Calanthe, about how she's a monster. She killed all of his family, and she goes, "My grandmother didn't do that." And he goes, "She ordered it."
Yeah.
So again, the monster, but also appearances, because Cirilla in there is pretending to be someone other than who she is and given a false name, and then you have the queen. You have Queen Callus of Lyria, who appears to be a queen, but is more of a prisoner than a queen, and a princess who feels more a prisoner than a princess. And then Queen Calanthe, who feels almost trapped. while she likes being a queen, it also makes it hard for her to be a mother. And it's obvious that she does care about her family, and her duty to her family. And then Geralt comes in, and they Jaskier's dressed him in borrowed clothes, and Mousesack says, "How come you look like a sad silk trader?" I mean, and then of course Urchin is a knight in full armor until they take his helmet off and reveal that he's the hedgehog thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually found what I was looking for. There's one moment, speaking of Broccolon Forest, when they talk about the Dryad mentions mother's blood, which struck me as a big part of the whole episode. If you think about, everything about motherhood in general. If you think about, like, I was thinking of the Selkie Moor, basically coming out of the Selkie Moor, being birthed in the Selkie Moor, dressed wearing the fluids of the Selkie Moor from his death, but still, coming out in that sort of fashion. There's the mother, the princess who's the mother, Yennefer, who's talking about motherhood and saying how difficult it is. Queen Calanthe again, complaining about how she basically has to be a mother, and she when she's and in order to get over that challenge, she has to fight like harder, but the idea of the word mother's blood, I thought could definitely be a good title for a song to work with.
And there's also Calanthe tells her daughter Pavetta, you can have who you want when you're married. You have your mother's blood, you'll be fine.
Is that what it was? Okay.
It literally says it right there. So, yeah. I mean,
I know I saw it somewhere. I couldn't remember where that came from.
And it's a great line. And also, all right, so the quote, blood is thicker than water.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a Christianity steeped quote. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Huh.
That's the full quote. So the value you make is more important than who your family is. That's what it means. It's not family's more important than everything else. It means literally the opposite of that. It means what you have vowed to do, the vows you have taken, are more important than family. Isn't that weird? Isn't that interesting? Especially in this kind of context.
Yeah.
And then once they are in Broccolon Forest, Cirilla is told that she has to drink the waters.
Right. That was the other moment that struck it. She's sitting there drinking the waters from the source.
Right. And if you if you're pure in heart, you survive.
Right.
And if you're not, well.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so much in here that could have, what I really loved, and because when they all lauded Geralt when he had, it's the Witcher, and Jaskier has at the beginning said, that Geralt owed him a debt for making him famous.
Right.
Yeah. And he goes, and of course, Geralt is already famous for being the Butcher of Bleviskin, or whatever that is. I can't remember the name, but he had allegedly killed a bunch of elves, or he killed a village, and so they asked somebody, said, perhaps our esteemed guest would like to. It's Calanthe says, perhaps our esteemed guest would like to entertain us with how he slayed the elves at the edge of the world.
Right.
And Geralt just quietly and a matter-of-factly says, there was no slaying. I had my arse kicked by a ragged band of elves. I was about to have my throat cut when Filavandrel let me go. And they're like, but the song. Yeah, the song. And he's like, at least when Filavandrel's blade kissed my throat, I didn't shit myself, which is all I can hope for you, good lords, at your final breath, a shitless death. But I doubt it. And then there's immediately the posturing and the posing where somebody, turns and said to Calanthe, "It would have been your blade at Philavandrel's throat had you been there, your majesty." And then but Calanthe immediately turns and said, "Any man willing to paint himself in the shadow of his failures will make for far more interesting conversation this night."
I love that line. That was great.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, really, where are you the kind of person who's going to paint yourself in the rosy hues of all of your successes and accomplishments? Or are you the person who defines themselves by the times they've failed?
Right.
And how does that change you? How does that shape you? So all of this is, I mean, duty and destiny and monsters and helplessness. The law of surprise is so weird. I mean, Cirilla becomes Geralt's ward because she was the child in Pavetta's womb.
Yeah.
So, and he makes a joke about, invoking the law of surprise. It's a toss off because he doesn't believe in destiny. And all of a sudden it's revealed that she's pregnant. He said, "What you have, but do not yet know." And then Urchin finds out that he's going to be a father, and boom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this episode that we can pull from.
There's a lot to choose from. So it's going to be interesting, some interesting ideas, and I have to settle on something at some point.
Yeah. No, I think I like the Mother's Blood is very interesting and very in your oeuvre, your wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that you're really good at writing stuff about. And I have to make the choice. Do I want to, because as always, am I going to write a serious song or am I going to write a funny song? And if I'm going to write a serious song, how's it, what's the tone? And it's important. A lot of your songs are more tonally consistent than mine, which I don't know if that makes it easier or harder for you.
I don't either. Sometimes it makes it, I feel like it can make it a little bit more bland, but thus far, I don't feel like it's been that way.
I don't think there's anything bland about having a style. But although if you decided to write something in a different style, you might feel trapped by the style the brand that you've established for yourself, right?
Honestly, I think that's one of the things I enjoy about doing this podcast is because when I'm writing outside of it, I frequently don't always have, some source material like this that's as well defined that I can refer to, and so I end up, I grew up on Elvis Presley, so I wrote love songs, and it can be a challenge to making them interesting, so that they're not the same song over and over again, So yeah, it's one of the things this has helped me to break outside of that mold. So yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, everyone has their price. That's another theme here. She says everyone has their price, and
interesting.
Oh, come now, everyone has their price, because he said that she wants him to maybe strategically remove certain irritants that may present themselves. She'd do so herself, but I'm bound to uphold an artifice of decorum and fairness. And he says, "I can't help you." And she says, "So perilously direct, as queen, I could command it." And he says, "If I were one of your subjects, I could torture you so very slowly into compliance. Her Majesty will do as she wishes. I'm not for turning." Oh, come now, everyone has their price. And then it immediately turns. What's his price?
Yeah. Oh,
because we're all paying prices. He'll pay his price for doing what he feels is right.
Yeah.
So torture would be the price he pays for sticking to his guns, and the price she pays for holding power, being queen, the lioness, and being a mother and securing the future she wants for her children and grandchildren is that she has to be a monster. She has to be the lioness.
Yeah.
Huh.
I had another one actually, which the conversation between the princess and Yennefer when they're in the carriage, and she says, "You've cheated the game without even knowing it," which I love that little line too.
Yeah.
Because not only is it sort of ironic, because she's like, I didn't actually cheat the game, I kind of losing the game, and yet she this princess who doesn't know much feels like she is. But again, which could be said on repeated things too. Just immediately went to Geralt when he was at the end, where he's claims the law of surprise, and feeling like he cheated the game too, but he didn't, because all of a sudden the law of surprise is a thing.
Yeah.
and he's now bound to this child. So yeah, there's a bunch to check out and work with.
Your mother was right about one thing. We're just vessels. And even when we're told we're special, as I was, as you would have been, we're still just vessels for them to take and take until we're empty and alone. So count yourself lucky. You've cheated the game and won without even knowing it.
Ah, that's right. That was the baby scene. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. And then she's in trouble because she's only birthing daughters. Right? That's why the king of Valyria is having her killed.
Meanwhile, which it also sets up the fact that Yennefer cannot have children,
right?
Which we find out later in the season, which is intriguing in itself, I think.
And neither can Geralt.
Because
he's a mutant, and they are sterile.
And yet she wants to have children.
And he ends up with a daughter.
Right.
An adopted daughter. So, I mean, yeah, destiny, duty. I think that's probably where, mine's going to probably play on destiny versus duty. Probably. That's maybe. Nice. I don't know. Or maybe the helplessness and destiny. Maybe that trifecta of helplessness, destiny, and duty.
Very appropriate for Of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. All right. Yeah. So I guess all that is left at this point is to retreat to our different corners and write and record songs.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Right. Always easier said than done. All right, let's do it. Two. 1, 2, 3. She walks alone through the snow, enduring the pain that would kill me. She sits on a throne, blood stains on the stones. Every battle she wins must feel like 3. She's stuck on a path. She's going to crash into a world that won't let her be. It's no surprise, wipes the tears from her eyes. Whatever transpires, don't let them see. Tradition's chains, it runs through her veins. It's the crown she wears, her family tree. She's stuck on a path. She's going to crash into a world that won't let her be. She pays the price. She is beloved, oh, for the sacrifice of the mother's blood. It's more than a pint to those who are judged, oh, let's stand and fight for the mother's blood. It seems an endless tale told by men who fail, who try to outrun their destiny. But she has primal power, she'll knock down his tower. The more he clings to legacy, she pays the price, 'cause she is beloved, oh, for the sacrifice of the mother's blood. It's more than a pint to those who were judged, oh, let's stand and fight for the mother's blood. She pays the price, 'cause she is beloved, oh, for the sacrifice of the mother's blood. It's more than a pint to those who are judged, oh, let's stand and fight for the mother's blood. Let's stand and fight for the mother's blood. Let's stand and fight for the mother's blood.
It's not a war we wage, it's just life we're in, filled with the chosen and those who choose. Which one are you? There is no victory, no way to ever win. There's only deciding what you lose. Where is the star-crossed sign to guide us? Where is the destiny we need? Behind every monster that I slay, there's just another face, another man telling me just who I need to be. Over each mountain that I climb, each sea that I swam and I left behind, there's only more searching for a key to set me free. What they give you, or you get what you can take. The way that you take it is up to you. There's no consolation, just the choices that we make. You still have to live with what you do. There is no star-crossed sign to guide us. There is no destiny, just deeds. Behind every monster that I slay, there's just another face, another man telling me just just who I need to be. And over each mountain that I climb, each sea that I swam and I left behind, there's only more searching for a key to set me free. Behind every monster that I slay, there's just another face. Some other man telling me just who I need to be. And over each mountain that I climb, each sea I swim and I leave behind, there's only more searching for a key, one I'll never see, to set me free.
Mark and I make our living as full-time musicians. We love creating this podcast and sharing our music for you, but it would be near impossible to release as much great music and podcasts if it wasn't for the generosity of people just like you.
So, if you enjoyed this show, please support what you love. Mikey has a song about it. He'll sing it to you, too.
Yeah.
Your generosity pays for the production and promotion of our music in this podcast. I always think of that song whenever I read that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I love that song.
And also, thank you so very much to the amazing Patreon patrons who help keep the music being made, my incredible misfits, especially Aura M., the Reverend Chris Adata Smith, Dark Unicorn, Amy Stewart, Michael Candlewald, Josh Logan, Les Howard, Brian Jackie, Strad von Zarovich, Scott Mealy, Scott Weinhusen, Matt and Tracy Jackson, and the Hobbits, Jeremy D. Jackson, and Jennifer Lewis.
I am extremely grateful to everyone who supports my Gunrunners Club on Patreon. You are all so generous with your support. Thanks to our patrons, Bob Harford, my mom, Cecilia Fairley, Not Higgins, CJT Maxwell, Sarah Crockett, Bill Mandeville, William McCassick, TD, Beth Bailey, Gina King Brown, Carol Burrill, Scott and Anita Gorel, Laura Mae George, Shell Nell, Eric Ray, Troy Rogers, Angela Hughes, and Scott Weinhusen. So
what is next?
Well, according to our notes, what's up next is Ripper Street, which I know nothing about. So you're going to have to pick that one.
All right. I'll pick that one.
All right.
Ripper Street, I believe you can still get it on Netflix. So I'll pick it. It's going to be a season 1 episode.
Okay.
Probably fairly early on in the season, although I did watch the whole thing.
Okay.
It's cool. It's a nice series. If you like that sort of thing.
I'm going to go check it out. What's it about?
It's a kind of a Victorian police procedural with some kung fu and
Okay, you sold me the kung fu. I mean, I like the Victorian aspect. Victorian kung fu is the best, though.
It's
we just watched Shanghai Noon, so
I believe there's some mystic elements to it, and I don't want to say steampunk, but I also kind of, because of the whole Victorian aesthetic, you have to say it's kind of steampunk.
Gotcha.
Even though it's not really steampunk. But it just feels that way. It's very period police procedural.
Awesome. All right.
Soap opera kind of, for I don't know, for people who don't like soap operas. People want their soap operas to have more kung fu.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for listening. You can download many of our songs when you sign up on our Patreon pages. Find out more about Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason, how to support our music on Patreon.
We'd love your comments, your suggestions, songs, or lyrics, or links to videos to share in the next show. Use the hashtag in the verse, you can post them on the Blue Sun Tour Facebook page or email me at mikey@mikeymason.com.
In the Verse was produced by Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason. Sign up on our website and find out more about the Blue Sun Tour when it happens at fireflydrinkingsongs.com.